Hey man, today we're talking about why you feel boring and uninteresting to other people, and what to do about it. Popular advice usually promotes a simple idea like, just socialize, read smart books, and broaden your horizons. But the catch is that this kind of problem isn't solved so easily. This mess requires not only practice and new connections, but also a theoretical foundation. So first, let's go through the cycle of burnout of a typically boring person. How they try to make friends and end up disappointed in themselves again. Stage 1. I feel lonely. This is the stage where you spend most of your time. You're withdrawn, barely interact with classmates, but increasingly crave communication and closeness. Sometimes you try to suppress this feeling and ignore your loneliness. But in reality, this need is inevitable, because we're all social creatures and can't live without connection to other social creatures. Eventually, courage, loneliness, and resolve build up, and you move on to the next stage. Stage 2. Let's socialize. This is the most active stage. You sign up on VK dating apps, try to chat with classmates or internet strangers. Here, popular bloggers promise that life will improve, confidence will rise. But more often than not, that's complete bullshit. Socializing becomes a job where you try to be a convenient conversationalist. You rarely talk about yourself, focus on others, make up stories to sound more impressive, reframe unpleasant facts about yourself to make them sound solid and attractive, etc. But eventually, your social battery and motivation run out. Either people ignore you, or nobody messages you, or you start worrying that people will soon see what's behind your friendliness, a boring, empty shell. As a result, you cut off connections yourself. Stage 3. Failure, ghosting, emotional collapse. You feel even more pathetic and worthless. Because, well, bro, you just can't handle normal communication. At this point, the belief is reinforced. You are a dull, uninteresting extra in everyone's life. Stage 4. Withdrawal. The most passive stage, when anxiety and low self-esteem take root. You've realized once again how hard communication is, and how scary it is to connect with people. But sooner or later, the loneliness builds up again, and you return to stage 1. The cycle repeats over and over. New people, new dating sites, but the structure is the same. Sometimes family or friends try to interrupt this shit cycle. They regularly tell you how good, valuable, and interesting you are, but most often, their words don't do shit. Because they sound like pity or forced reassurance. Like, they're just saying that to comfort me, or they're too close to see how boring I really am. So how do you break out of this cycle? First, you need to call out the rotten connections. Thoughts like, they're too close to see how boring I really am. That's pure rationalization. That's your subjective interpretation, not fact. It might sound convincing in your head, but it's totally illogical. Let's take the idea, they're too close to see how boring I am. On the one hand, sure, close people want to comfort you. Meanwhile, some random girl from Tinder who ghosts you is being honest and not pretending you're interesting. But on the other hand, isn't it kind of stupid to value her judgment over the people who've known you for years? That Tinder girl knew you for what, a week tops? Whereas your friends have known you for years. They know you better than any random stranger. And they still choose to be around you. They genuinely like you enough to try to make you feel better about you. Yeah, maybe not the way you want, but they are trying. And if you allow yourself to accept even that basic logic, you'll notice something. These rationalizations of yours, they're not attempts to find the truth. They're just side products of the cycle, far from any objectivity.
So now that we've dissected how your burnout logic works, the real question is, what do I do next? The answer? You only need to knock out one block of this whole mess, and the rest will start falling apart. Which block? I'm boring. Trying to fight off loneliness? Pointless. If you believe you're boring, of course being alone with yourself will feel boring too. Same with socializing. Trying to force more interaction won't help. Without confidence in your own value, it just drains you even more. So the only real brick to smash is I'm boring. It looks like a solid truth, but it's much more fragile than you think. And to break it properly, you need to hit it from the right angle. From childhood. If we were talking in real life, I'd ask you, when exactly in your life did you decide you were boring? What moment was it? Was it something your dad said? A look from your mom? A comment from a classmate? Because as long as you're still playing the role of the boring guy, still believing in your own inner emptiness, no other problems will go away. Not the loneliness, not the social issues, nothing. When I read posts on Devotch or Reddit, it turns out people's problems aren't really that they're boring. Here's a simple example. A girl talks about cooking, sewing. She describes a cozy evening with her hobbies, wine, and a documentary. But she still thinks she's boring, because guys on dates don't find her hobbies interesting. Dude, every time someone tells you your hobbies are boring, remember how many TikToks and memes exist about those very hobbies. Or open Reddit. Check out a group for your interest. Look at how many people are there. They all love it enough to sit in a public group for it.
Another example. A guy can't get past the first date with anyone. He concludes he must be boring. But when you read his post, it's clear he treats dates like job interviews. He uses scripts, preps topics, monitors himself constantly. No wonder the girls don't come back. He probably feels like a robot. So if you're stuck thinking you're boring, that's not the real issue. Maybe people bullied you in childhood. Maybe you missed out on key social skills. Maybe you just don't value your passions and interests. It could be anything. But not that there are inherently boring people. There's no such boring people cast. Ideally, find a therapist who can thoroughly challenge your self-image and ask, why do you think you belong to the boring cast? When did you decide that? And what's your definition of boring versus interesting? The main thing is this. Boring isn't an objective trait like height or hair color or age. It's a judgment, and judgment is a product of ego. The moment you trace back to the original event that shaped this belief, you'll realize it was never truth, just a label you picked up. There are no boring or uninteresting people, only external judgments and destructive reactions to them. Now let's look at the alternative angle to being boring. If everything before was the big blood circulation loop, let's now unpack the small one. Step 1, of course I'm boring. Step 2, life is boring. So what's the deal? If your daily life is just Dota, trolling, TikTok, YouTube, Discord streams, it leads to passive pleasure. And while passive pleasure isn't bad by itself, it's a natural part of leisure, too much of it ruins self-esteem. There are two main ways this happens. 1, think through bends your hobbies to others. 2, think through supposed feeling tired of doing nothing. The first can be handled with tools I've already mentioned, revisiting how and when you started believing you were boring. But the second, fatigue from inactivity, is deeper. That's not just ego, it's neurobiology. Now, I'm no damn neuroscientist, so I'll keep it simple. Your biology is wired for movement and engagement. Sure, dopamine hits from YouTube or TikTok work in the moment, but in the long run, you feel dull and low. You scroll on autopilot. You're satisfied, but not fulfilled. Solving this is harder. For some, it's a fear of trying hobbies. If your attention and judgment. For them, the earlier strategies work. For others, it's deeper. Psychological dependency, ingrained habits. They might need something like a 12-step program, gradual dose reduction, or replacing idle scrolling with creative action. Or hell, it might be actual depression. But since I'm not a therapist and don't have a degree, I can't help you through a screen. So don't expect some video to completely fix your self-perception. Start loving yourself on your own. Stop seeing yourself through a lens of self-hate. Give yourself at least a little belief that you're not boring. As Dostoevsky said, it's not faith that gives rise to the miracle. It's the miracle that comes from faith. In other words, it's not someone else's words like "you're interesting" that will make you feel okay. It's your own belief in your value, your own warm thoughts and desire to get to know yourself. Thanks to everyone who watched till the end. This was a deep, dense video. Even though it was short, the script was hard to write. I hope you enjoyed it.